How about a warm ASC welcome for Shaun Neff of Neff? Yeah. Good to see you.
Thanks, bud. All right. So is this the button pusher? Hit next. All right. Well, I'm grateful and excited to be here today. It's an honor. Definitely some pretty rad people that have taken the stage and that are speaking today, and especially about this topic, authenticity, and when it dials down to the roots is pretty much everything in our world. Being core, being legit, being cool is very meaningful to the youth of today. So, a couple bad moves or doing the wrong thing that can, have you come off not authentic, cool, or whack, I guess, in a sense, could definitely damage your brand. So I know that was a short clip, and my first slide is actually just a little, 35-second little marketing clip on kind of what our brand is today and the message that we're trying to portray. Because I think that's, one of the most important things about being authentic is, as a brand, you're communicating a story, right? If you're McDonald's and you're slanging hamburgers, you're going to show up expecting a good hamburger under 2 minutes is going to get to you. Because I think one of the things that, a lot of people do when they start a company is really put themselves in a box. I mean, that's something when I started this brand 10 years ago, I knew nothing was, a 23-year-old college kid. The one thing I wanted to do is not put my brand, my idea in a box. And a lot of companies, when they initially start, they can come out and kind of stand behind this message on, we're core skate, we're skate. Or, hey, we're a surf company, we're a surf company, we're a surf company. Or, we started in snow, we're going to always be in snow, we're going to support snow. Well, you're probably going to be stuck in snow, 10 years down the road. So for me, based upon having this unique, fun brand, and I'll get in real quick to our story on how we started, is this fun concept is what I wanted, the Neff brand to stand for. Because for me, I envisioned down the road, which is kind of where we are today, that times are going to change, that social is going to come on strong, that kids are going to be wanting to be fed different types of information, and I didn't want to only be, stuck in one type of genre or one sport or one taste, and that was kind of a way that, it's a weird description on authenticity, because a lot of that is you kind of stick and know your game, but our game has kind of been to buck that trend. We don't want to stand for anything, we want to stand for fun, and here's our message, and it's continuing to work, and even as it progresses and as kids are changing faster and trends are, flipping in 2 months where they used to last 2 years, now this model that we started a long time ago is resonating, and you can see in that clip, 10 years ago, it was like, we want to be in surf, we want to be in skate, we want to be in snow, and we want to get down with artists, musicians. So from the day, from the beginning, that's been our message, and we've definitely stayed true to that. So, just a real quick snapshot on how I started the brand. Grew up in California, always loved surfing and snowboarding and kind of a part of this industry. And always intrigued with why people wore certain brands. My pet peeve to this day is the dude driving in his truck and he's wearing Oakley sunglasses and he's got like a big dragon sticker on the back of his car. It just makes me cringe. To me that's brand confusion and yada yada yada. But started the company, went up to printed some T-shirts. Was going up to school up in Utah. So being up in Utah, I was surrounded by the biggest pro snowboarders in the world. So with that, I was hanging out with all these pro snowboarders, becoming friends with them, and I was always, when they were going to do a big photo shoot, because when you start a brand, you have to be credible, you have to get noticed, it's got to be on a personality or a big athlete to get main exposure. So knowing that, being in Utah, we started in snowboarding, right? If I would have went to college in Hawaii, we would have started a surf brand, but being up in Utah, surrounded by those guys, always giving them a T-shirt. Every single time, dude, Shaun, whatever, we're cool, we're homies, but I can't wear your T-shirt. I got a big deal with Burton or Volcom, and they had all these big apparel deals. So I asked a couple of my buddies to kind of check out those apparel deals, and I went home and read through all the contracts. It was like the first contract I've ever seen. And, I was like, all right, it says nothing about headwear in this apparel contract. So that night, I'm like, hey, dude, we're cool. I got a headwear company. Like, this is not messing, like, nothing with your contracts. You're good. You can stay on these companies. And, we're a headwear company. So the next day, the challenge was, driving around the, college town. There's screen printers, but I hadn't seen, like, Mr. Beanie Guy or Hat Guy. So I was like, how am I going to make headwear? So this is a picture of our one of the first headbands, first of 10, that a pro athlete gave back to me about a year and a half ago. I went to just the 99-cent store in Target and, bought dollar headbands, ripped off logos, wrote my last name on it. And, as beautiful as that thing is, it's amazing to think what we've done off that, right? Being your first product. But it's smart in finding that niche, and the brand really blossomed from there. So, being authentic, we started, which was the original plan, to be a Surfskate Snow-driven brand, started in snow, and what gave us that authenticity was these pro athletes, right? I mean, without those guys, no one would have really cared. It was those guys that had a credible, valid space in snowboarding, and they were wearing our products. So that was a very, important start of our brand. Is obviously having that niche is what gave us the ability to play in the game, but having these pro athletes and having these guys endorse it kind of gave us the check of, okay, you're cool. Like, you can, I remember going to the first trade show in Vegas, and my booth was absolutely horrendous. I got it from a haunted house. There was like this big haunted house in the college town, and I knew like a trade show was in a month, and I was like, dang, those walls could work, So I ended up having the guy and like buying like 3 walls for like $300, and then drove those down and had the worst looking booth ever right on the corner of Burton. There was this like $2.5 million booth, and then my haunted house booth like touching it. But the thing that gave us credibility was our roster of athletes. We had 5 of Burton's best guys, but yet we had 5 of Oakley's best guys, 5 of Volcom's best guys, 5 of Nike's best. So we had the best athletes in the world. So as horrendous kind of as our product was, and as horrendous as our booth was, that authenticity of, wow, who's this guy that is 22 years old that has 25 athletes riding for him that they knew I wasn't paying because they were homies, because I couldn't, looking at my booth that should pay those guys would have been worth more than Burton's booth. But it was the homie factor and the credibility. So in the beginning, being authentic was what allowed us to play in the game. If I didn't have those athletes that were meaningful to the kids, meaningful to the sport, and that really meant something, then I would have just been, that guy forever. That thing sitting on a shelf means nothing, but when, Travis Rice was wearing it, winning the biggest contest of the year on NBC, it all of a sudden meant something. So very important, kind of capturing that authenticity and how I got into the sport is working with these credible athletes. Next slide. So going back to the beginning, this was the first retailer that we supported. So back to that authenticity play, I went to school up at BYU in Provo, Utah, and Milo Sport, one of their locations is in Provo. And still to this day, Milo Sport is known as one of the most core and authentic and reputable shops in the country, still to this day. The guys that started, they always speak at the conferences, and they always talk about, the meaning of core and authenticity. And so, I had those 2 things lined up, that my first retailer with these credible athletes, I positioned the brand in a way that, was screaming authenticity. And, for the first 5 months, we were only in Milo Sport. So it was kind of a cool start to our brand, saying we have the most authentic athletes and best athletes in the world, and our product only sits in one of the most authentic stores in the world. When you look at our story, because now, today as a brand, we make, a lot of different apparel. We've had one of the biggest runs in t-shirts over the last 2 years. We've sold almost 1 million watches in a year, and that's been a new category we went into. We have a snow focus, we have outerwear. I mean, we've got a wide offering as a product. But you look at how we've grown over the years, remembering where you came from is so very important, because it would have been easy for us, and we've had distributors, we're distributing out about 50 countries, and over the years we've had so many countries saying, hey, Shaun, make denim, or hey, do this, or let's lean towards, being a clothing company. In the beginning, we wanted to be an accessories company, right? Which is kind of the heart of what we are today. It's our main focus. And then obviously we make printables and some other things, but it's important to point out that the first product that we made, being headwear and being beanies, today is our number one selling product. And going to retail in the stores that we sell to, the Neff beanie still to this day is the number one selling beanie. And so, it's important, I think, to trace authenticity from where you're starting. I think it's so very important when you're trying to connect with a kid, whether it's not even a brand, but whatever website you have, you're trying to create excitement from a kid. It's so very important that you come out in that kind of mission statement, or you communicate this is who you want to be, that you kind of trace that. Because so many brands come out and it's like, we're a streetwear company, and, we're built on, having kids line up and, buy 50 hats that come out, and that's what we do. But then it gets tough as they grow, because then they're in stores that are, in the mall, and it kind of defeats, okay, is that the same thing as where we started? It's a little unique and different, but, for us, it's important that we've maintained where we started as a headwear company in snow, that key focus. And for us, it was going to be a difficult thing, because starting in snow, the next thing was to go into skateboarding, which is usually like a no-no, right? Skate is usually where you start. It's the most authentic and cool of the surf, skate, snow game as far as a fashion driver. So we kind of bucked a lot of trends, saying, starting from snow, then we went into skate, and then now we're in surf, and then the musicians has always been something that I just thought, to really tap into these kids and keep them excited, it's going to have to be more than just surf, skate, and snow. You got to hit that lifestyle play through artists. So, and the way that we were able to do that is similar to kind of how we started, which is getting credible athletes and credible personalities, right? I mean, like Deadmau5, right? Everyone's probably heard of Deadmau5, the DJ. So 2 or 3 years ago, in Europe and everything, that kind of electronic music was the music, right? And I was just sitting back going, okay, I know this is going to come to America. I know it's going to hit. I know this is going to be the trend. So about 2 years ago, we inked a deal with Deadmau5, right? So knowing that that was going to be the future, last year, we had a huge collaboration with Deadmau5 that we took out and did millions of dollars with him as a collaboration, right? So that's an authentic way that we spotted a trend and knew it was coming. But if Neff if we started making like electronic shirts, with like DJs on it, we'd be whack. We'd be done. It wouldn't be credible, would not be authentic, and it would be a bad look for us and could hurt our whole brand. But knowing this was coming, we inked Deadmau5. We knew this was going to be a movement. He was one of the coolest dudes, and that just added to our consumer base. It added to the cool factor of our brand, and constantly, Neff, where I think we're very unique and different, is we're one of the few brands that kind of started out in that surf, skate, snow heritage, and we've successfully made the jump in the last 3 or 4 years into the whole streetwear lifestyle movement, just based on, that we weren't Neff. We were communicating 5 or 6 years ago when we signed Snoop, while, we just don't want to be a surf, skate, snow brand. Artists are very important to us. So that's been kind of our little secret sauce, knowing that the kids are going to be intrigued with so many different things, and especially with the social media that's happening, the power of these people. I mean, these collaborations and collections, like throughout this video, Mac Miller's a good example of a collection we have right now at retail. And, the push that we've gotten out of him, with coinciding with dropping his album, and really teaming up with these big media sources. Neff is a brand, we don't even have the dollars to drop $5 million to put out a marketing message to reach as many kids as we did with Mac Miller. So that's something very, very important to us. So for me, I don't think you can really define authenticity. And, for me, in thinking about this, I just kind of, jotted down doing what you've always done, but in an exciting way. And for me, you can kind of look at traditional heritage brands and kind of see that they kind of sit around, and a lot of them are doing exactly what they did today, via brand image, via look and feel, via the product they're making. And it's easy for a company to have, huge success and kind of sit there and never see, the rainbow ending, just thinking, okay, we've already figured it out. We've already dialed in the consumer. We've already got the kids excited. Let's keep doing what we're doing. And it's important that you're always changing, you're always evolving, and that's something I think that I look at every single day, is that balance of how do you maintain who you are or what you are, how do you maintain being that youthful headwear company or an accessories company when you might be getting pulled to do other products, or you might be getting pulled to tap into other genres that hit. But I think it's important, which I think hopefully we've done a good job at, is sticking back. I mean, you can look at like the UFC fighting craze or something. I mean, that was a huge run a couple years ago, right? It was like kids were into that, and that stuff was everywhere. And we had an opportunity to sign a lot of these big UFC guys because, hey, it's cool, I like your beanies, let's do a program. But for us, surf, skate, snow, and musicians was our game, right? So we never jumped on, this sport that all of a sudden exploded, or, this type of fashion or this type of thing, if it wasn't kind of true to us. So I think it's important, to really, you always have to be evolving nowadays. The old school idea of like, once we did it, we're going to do it for a long time is like dead. Like, it's amazing how fast trends are changing. I mean, we'll have something hit at retail and literally like 30 days later, kids are already like off the floral print and onto something new. And you're just like, unbelievable, right? So it's very fast. And I think if you're someone portraying a message to a kid, the old school days of walking around with like, one little Swiss knife in your pocket and you can take out the enemies is like done. You have to have like 90 sticking out of your head and your shoes and be very faceted, and that's how the kids are today. So next slide. I think, I put this in there just because I think this is very important. It's kind of what I've just been talking about, is being authentic to your brand and your consumer. Because a lot of times, even us, we sit in our office, we think we have stuff figured out, this is what Neff is, this is what Neff means, and let's keep trucking. But it's very important that you're constantly seeking, what your target market is into and how they're changing and how they're different. So I think this is something that, you can look at some of those heritage brands right now that are having a lot of struggle. They're still being authentic to their brand only. They're worried about what they did 20 years ago and trying to do that same exact thing today, where kids are just going, yeah, that was cool like 20 years ago, but they need to be fed something new and exciting. So I think it's very important that you're authentic to who you are. If Neff all of a sudden starts sponsoring, NASCAR tomorrow and we start making tires or something, then it'd be my bad, right? I'm chasing something shouldn't be authentic to me. But, the fact that we've been able to, get into different accessories, it all has that same look and feel. It's all based around fun. It's all colorful, and, maintaining that initial DNA while adapting and being unique is very important if you want a long-term run. So back to the campaign, highlighting Forever Fun, and because most brands, right, there's a lot of different ways to be authentic, right? And I've touched on, getting the right personalities authentic to the space, right? You can kind of look at the Nike story and say, how are they successful in skateboarding? How did they become authentic? They make like track shoes, and they make golfer gloves. So that has nothing to do with skateboarding, which is like the most authentic, credible sport in our game. But yet, over years and time, with some money, they were able to get in there and become authentic. But they did it off supporting the authentic things to that world and that code, right? They got the good team. Okay, so those guys are cool and credible. Then they sold to the authentic, cool retailers. Okay, like that's cool. They supported the right events. They made the right videos. They made the right products. So there's ways to adapt in almost to that authenticity, but you got to be very important. Like right here we have, like, Snoop was one of the first guys we signed. We signed Snoop like 6 years ago, right? when the whole music craze and everything and the whole streetwear thing hadn't even happened. But I knew eventually coming down the pipeline that, the streetwear thing was probably going to become relevant, and Snoop is the one rapper, unlike maybe a Jay-Z and some of these Dr. Dre guys that have that kind of Godfather type vibe. Like, you can't hate on Snoop. Like, he's an OG, Like, he credible or not, like, Snoop's credible, right? Everyone respects what he did a long time ago. And although now it's unique because he's a lion and maybe he's not sticking to that authentic chord as much, but he doesn't have to because he is so authentic. So there's things you can get away with. But so keeping going, once again, just highlighting that our brand is based on fun. So like a lot of brands are based on core skate, or hey, we're a just this type of hip hop music website. When you come out and you say you're a hip hop music website, you're always going to be a hip-hop music website. You ain't doing anything else. So for us, that's kind of how we tried to jump the authentic credibility play on a wide level with our brand, is make sure that fun is kind of, one of our best-selling products is a cupcake beanie. Like, looks like a little cupcake. It's like Nordstrom's best-selling beanie. So it's like, then you have all these pro athletes and all these credible guys. They're not going to be caught dead in a cupcake beanie, right? But it's like we've kind of had that fun week factor attached to our brand since day one. That's kind of been our little special sauce of getting away, I think, with a little bit more than the average brand. And we've never come out and been like, yo, we're so credible and we're so skate or we're so snowboard, that we're cool. We've always just been like, poke at us, we're fun. Like, it is what it is. We want to make cool, fun product that's affordable for the kids, and that's what we're doing. So once again, I already talked about, that was our first shop in Milo. That's the owner, that authentic story. But I still continue to support him. Every one of his events, we do collaboration beanies with him. So you can never lose sight of that heritage tree, which is kind of the next slide, right? Which is kind of the cool tree concept. In the cool tree, I kind of talk about it's, picture you're remember back when we were in high school and there was always the cool tree at my school was like the cool stage where it was lunchtime and everyone was out there, but it was like the dudes on the stage, we thought we were the cool guys, right? So every high school, every genre, it's kind of like that tipping point concept, right? I mean, there's that cool tree where right under that tree, there's going to be your tastemakers and your influencers. So it's important to figure out where you're headed, what you're trying to tap into, but know that there's going to be certain leaders that they follow. The cool tree kids in high school that might be into hip hop, they're probably right now into A$AP Rocky because he's kind of the new hot guy that's kind of taking the style stuff from Kanye and kind of being that guy. So now knowing it's important to team up with him to reach that kid in high school that sits at the tree and all the other kids look at him, and that's kind of something important that we always try to stay true to is, identifying that cool kid, how can we reach him in an authentic way with an authentic personality? And just in closing, the next frontier, authenticity, what does it mean? You just have to be true. I mean, the brand is a complete reflection of kind of who I am. So I make decisions every single day. I'm constantly creating new designs, constantly thinking about going into new categories. But for me, it's almost it's almost your inners and going, okay, what feels good to me and what feels right? And I think if you can do that, understanding your mission statement or understanding the consumer you're trying to reach, if you can make decisions based on, does this feel right for the DNA? I mean, it's kind of like we know when we walk outside, if we're going to cross the street and there's a lot of cars, it's not a smart move. In business, there's a lot of things that come our way that could potentially not hurt, or it could hurt what we've created and not be a part of our DNA. So that's kind of the Neff story. We're fairly unique because we kind of live off that fun authenticity, which allows us to fly in a lot of ways. But hopefully that was, something good that you guys can take. Thanks.
Boom. Shaun Neff, everybody.
Thanks.
Big fan.